no one knows about you, right? So you have to get in front of the people who will need your services. So what I like to say about this, and I think this has helped me because I do have like a vast operations background. So I'm used to reporting, I'm used to tracking, I'm used to like really putting things in their bucket. The reason why I'm saying that is because you know from your business plans, you know from your marketing strategies that you're going to be trying to obtain your clients from different sources, right? You're going to have social media, you have your client outreach, you have community outreach, you're going to have different buckets. As you're getting calls, you're really tracking, well, where are these calls coming from? Like how, these people that are reaching out to me, where are they finding me? And if it's not obvious, because like if you know if they're reaching out to you on Instagram, you know you got them from Instagram, right? But if you're getting an email, you know, if someone's giving you a phone call, one of your first questions should be, how did you find me? Because if you know that you got 10 calls last week, I'm just going to throw a number out there, and seven of those calls came from your Google profile, well, you want to pump up that Google profile because that's how people are finding you, right? Conversely, if you got 10 people calling you, which is a lot, right? And no one is converting, then you know there's something missing in your pitch because you're getting people to reach out to you, which is half the battle, if I could talk, but they're not converting. So you have to ask yourself why. Why are they calling you, but they're not selecting you? And so that's where you may want to reach out to like a Mariam or a coach or a mentor to say, you know what, I'm getting the people, they're just not deciding to go with me. So what does that look like? Are you not getting your points across? Is your price too high? You know, what is it? Did the person not feel comfortable with you? And the people that like my Mariams that call me and a few other clients that I have there that are uber successful, man, they're hitting it hard. It's not a one and done. They're not doing two things and then they're like, shoot, that didn't work. No, they're hustling, you know? And so I always say, you know, the dream is free, but the hustle costs, right? You got to hustle. If you want to see those, you know, that if you want to see the output that you desire, you have to put in the input, if that makes sense. And so that would be my answer to start.
And that's, I think my expectations for myself personally were adjusted when I realized the sheer volume of work that I had to do just to get like any kind of traction or momentum. So like I remember I went to like two or three like senior fairs. I'm like nobody wants me like events. I did a booth. I had snacks. And then I remember talking to another business owner friend of mine, and then they're like, "Oh no, like you have to do like multiple. You have to you need like a runway because then first time somebody's seeing you, it's not until like the sixth or seventh time that it even registers."
That's what I knew that from.
I'm gonna put you on mute. Oh, not Vajika. Okay, where'd you go? I still mute. I think I muted you for Giga by accident. But yeah, so again, it just it's a numbers game and it's just getting your repetitions in. So when I talk to a lot of my members, and I'm not calling out no names, but I know when I've talked to them and we've done one-on-ones, it's always been yeah, I sent an email and I never heard from them. I have an email campaign in my classroom right now where I have 9 email templates, 9. And every 3 to 4 days, I sent those emails for about like 2 months, I want to say, on and off 2 months, because I did get demotivated after like the fourth email and I didn't hear anything. So in those 9 emails over the span of 2 months, I got two placement agents that actually contacted me, and then from those two, they referred me a third one. So technically, I got three people out of those 9 emails, but it took 2 months of me constantly emailing them. And it wasn't even the emails that did it. It was one of the events that I thought I was wasting my money on because I wasn't getting clients. I went to one of those events and they recognized my name because I had been bombarding them with emails. So it's like a numbers game and it's the repetition game. And the other thing that I keep hearing from my community members is like it's like they feel like they're almost begging, or like it's an ego thing where they're like, oh, like why don't they reach out to me too? And it's like you got to chuck your ego out. Like it has to go because there's so many of you guys doing this, and there's just more and more coming up every week. So, you really have to be persistent and you have to show them, this is the value I provide. This is my unique story. And that's, I talked to a couple members here. I think my biggest selling point is just my story. My dad being sick, I started in this home care agency, my military background, and then I'm just relentless. And so once my expectations were adjusted and I was like, oh, you're telling me I just got to keep doing this until like my knuckles bleed. I could do that. So it's literally, and I hate to say it because I'm all about the soft life and manifestation, but it's really a hustle, especially in the beginning. But once you get your first one or two clients, it helps you build the momentum. It gives you that energy to keep going because you're like, yes, I got one 4 months later, you know. So that's what I've learned as far as, hustling goes.
You know what? Something that I wanted to say too is I liked how you said your story kind of sold itself because that's true. Your people, like whoever you're speaking to, whoever's trying to go into business with you, or whoever you eventually partner with, they are resonating with something about you,
Hmm.
right? So you have to tell your story in a way that you don't sound like you're begging. You don't sound like you're pleading. You're just letting them know about you and where your passion comes from. It really, truly is a story, right? And it's your story. It's your why, right? So I always say, earlier, now I don't have to do this so much, but when I first started working for myself, like literally my kids would be cracking up at me because I would just be in my mirror practicing whatever my pitch was. Because remember, we are our own worst critics. And so we're going to say, oh, that didn't sound right. That didn't sound right. But if you feel that way because you're not comfortable, so you want to say it until you're comfortable, until you can anticipate what a person may ask you. Because remember, people want to know who you are and what makes you different. That's about it, really, right? Because they're coming to you because you have a service they need. So that's half the battle. But now it's, well, who are you? Why should they get the service from you? And
Exactly.
if that doesn't roll off your tongue, then you have work to do.
And it's one thing to practice, but it's also another thing to go out and do that practice. So, a lot of people are paralyzed just by even going out there to do it. So, I have like a little script book and I write for every event that I go to, it's the same flavor of what I'm gonna pitch, but I listen to the people around me. So when you go to these events, guys, and I know I keep talking about this, when you go to these events and you have these networking events, just pay attention to what the other home care agencies are saying, and you will pick up that they are all saying the same thing. So when it comes to you, what makes you different? So, like for example, I was just at an event a week or two ago, and everybody was getting up. Hi, my name is so and so, non-medical home care in Sacramento. Hi, my name is so so, non-medical home care in Roseville. Hi, so and so, my name. It was all the same thing. So when it came to me, I was like, hi, my name is Mariam, non-medical home care, except I run my company like I was in the army. And like I run, I have soldiers, I don't have caregivers. So it's like that one little change was able to make me different from everybody. And I had the normal pitch. Mariam, non-medical home care, but also I'm a drill sergeant. So like, just a little tweak. It doesn't have to be like an exaggerated thing, but it came from practice. It came from the time where I was at an event and there's it was one of the placement agents and he interrupted my pitch and was like, "Well, there's so many of you. What makes you so different?" I was so caught off guard that like I stumbled over my words and he goes, "Yeah, see, what makes it's just they're all the same. There's so many." I went to my car and I cried. But you're not going to know these things until you go out and you practice your pitch, you know? There's nothing like the real-time examples and the real-time practice that you get on the field. It's way different than practice. And then you just get better and better. And when you meet people like that in the future, you don't even bat an eye at them, or they come up to you like, "Oh, we heard so much about you because you're all over the place now." And then you're going to be like, "No, you're good. I don't want to do business with you. I remember you from before." So like, it always comes back first full circle if you continue to put in the work. I do want to ask you guys to introduce yourselves if you haven't done so already, and tell Fujika where you guys are at. I know a few of you guys came in late, This is my mentor. I found her on YouTube. She helped me start my licensing here in California. She literally held my hand through the whole process. I had a couple meltdowns with her. The home care almost didn't happen. So I am so grateful for her, and I've been very blessed to have her here. So please, you guys, ask away, ask any questions you have for her. And yeah, well, or if you don't want to ask, just put in the chat, and I'll read the question from the chat. We had a good turnout today. It's pretty solid. Now, if I can
The
give
one thing I do want to say to your group as everyone is getting their questions together, like I just want to congratulate you because there are so many people who want to start their agencies and they kind of just have that want or that dream for years and don't act on it. The fact that you are, most of you are licensed or have already got your license or you're starting your businesses, that's a win. And so I just want to congratulating you for that win, for that milestone. But now it's really time to get in there and, start that business aspect of it because you can do it. If you had a dream or a vision, there was something in you that wanted you to do specifically this business. And so I just wanted to tell you all, I'm sure Mariam is too. We're also very proud of you because we do need good agencies out there. There are a lot of agencies out there. Not all of them are good. So, so we count you as part of the good community, and we're just happy that you've done this.
Exactly. Thank you. Yes, I co-sign with everything Fujika just said. You guys, I know how hard it was, and a couple of you have talked to me and told me how you guys waited a couple years and were nervous, and then you found a community and you felt supported. So I'm so grateful for that. I'm really proud of you guys as well. So Michael has a question. Fujika, through which medium of advertisement have you acquired most of your client? Is it through Google, SEO, Facebook ads, placement agents, etc.?
So I will tell you when I had my initial home care agency, hands down, it was Google. It was Google. So I always tell people that Google page, I know it's a lot of work because you feel like you're duplicating efforts because you put almost the same information in your Google page that you would into your website, right? But remember, what's different about your website is typically a person knows who you are, so they go to your website to check you out. Google, they may not necessarily know you. They just know they're looking for home care in whatever area, right? And you ranked high enough for them to go to your Google page. So you really want to pull the people in. And so you want to put that time in there in terms of making sure they know who you are, where are you at, what do you offer, how can they get in touch with you? So I would say to me, the Google page was the gift that kept on giving. But second is, and I would say it's a close second, is the community relationships. You have to build them. Because remember, you want to be like a voice in the community that you're serving. So not only is this your agency, but it's your brand, right? So you want your brand to be recognized, whether that's maybe there's caregiver programs that are around you, maybe there's local churches, the senior community centers, like how can you partner with them so that your agency is top of mind? So I would say between those two, those are the best.
Good question, Michael.
Yeah, that was a great question. You do have a great turnout, Mariam. Wow.
I have a question, Fujica.
Yes.
Um, okay, so if you're just starting off, like you know, um, yeah, like how are you gonna populate like how are you gonna make your Google page or um, your listing pop out? Because you might not have any reviews yet, right?
Yes.
Are you bidding for it's like to be higher up or something? Like what's the game plan?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So when I initially started, I'm gonna be honest with you, you saw a lot of pictures of my office building because it was a cute office, so I had those types of pictures. But then also I had flyers because if I was looking for caregivers, some of those flyers that I created, any events that I did, like those were a lot of the pictures that I posted. And as you start to build relationships, you can ask those people for testimonials, right? So maybe it's not a client, but it's a person that you partner with at a senior caregiver or senior care center. They can say what they appreciated about you or what it was like working for you, right? Because that's what people are going to look at. They're going to want to see what other people are saying about you. Until you can get that first client, that's how you're going to beef up your presence. But that's a great question. But yeah, I'm not gonna lie, like that first time I created it, you saw a lot of pictures of my office building
Yeah, and so
until I had more things to produce. Yeah.
well, so with my Google page, what ended up happening was in order for us, I started the Google My Page or Google My Business, whatever it's called. I did it myself, not knowing that there's like all these things that can hurt your ranking. So things like if a link is broken that's on your website, or
Yes.
something that's like hyperlinked is wrong, or so there's a lot of like this is recent. This is like literally like within the year. If you don't have things cleaned up per se on your Google My Business page, it can lower your ranking. So make sure you're making sure your times are on there, making sure your location is there. We did start the way that I started with the Google reviews is I asked my caregivers, I'm like, can you review us? Can you please review, like, how is it like working here? So we
Yeah,
have a ton of
nice.
Google reviews of how, the caregivers, because that's the only people that I could get at the beginning. It was like the caregivers. I'm like, can you please review us? It was going to help us. And then once I started getting clients, I would offer them like an hour or two, like, I was super desperate. So I'll give you 2 hours of free care if you do a Google and an honest
Uh-huh.
Google review. I'm like, I'll take an honest Google review. You don't have to put 5 stars. I just want a review.
Right.
And so fixing like my links, there's also certain categories of words that you can use. Like there's a whole thing on like YouTube that I like watched. And then we started ranking. So,
Mhm.
and then I know a lot of my members also they blew the $500 Google ads spend that they get. And I always tell them, I'm like, don't use your money yet. Until you know what you're doing on Google, clean up the basics. Then go ahead and use like the Google ad spend or whatever. But first, before you put any of the money, because Google, I want to say it gives you like $1,000 now. They give you a certain amount for free just to start. But clean up the basics. A simple YouTube video will help you figure that out, and then that will start ranking you right away. And then a lot of people don't like this, but like just ask like people hey, can you just vouch for me? You could do an honest review. You're like, hey, listen, yeah, I'm working here and it's so far so great. Like she doesn't have any onboarding process yet, but she's learning and at least started. So yeah, good question.
Liz has a question on here real quick. Do you want me to try to tackle it?
Yeah, I don't see it. I think it's just you.
Okay, so it says, hello, how do you pay your caregiver rate-wise for onboarding? So here's the thing. It depends on what you mean by onboarding. So anything that's considered like application, that's them trying to get the job. But to your point, if you're onboarding them, that is considered work. So if you're doing an orientation, if part of your onboarding has training, like anything that's an employment activity should be paid. Okay. Anything that it takes to obtain getting the job is not considered onboarding. That's just more application, if that makes sense. So that line in the sand is if it's anything that they're working towards their position, that's when pay comes in. Okay, so I hope that makes sense. Do you have a last minute cancellation policy by the family and how do you go about it? So when you say last minute cancellation, is this the family that's canceling or is it the caregiver? Liz, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure I'm reading this right. So until you reply back to it, in terms of touch on mileage pay, I'm honestly going to say it because I know you're in Washington, you're really going to have to know what the rules are for your state because they do vary. Okay. So I will say this, I'm just going to say it so I can get it out. Liz, these are very thoughtful questions. And I will tell you right now, labor, wage, things like that, that's something you definitely don't want to play around with, right? because this is where you could really get yourself into trouble as a business owner. I always say, if you can't have an attorney on waiver for you, right? If that's something you can't do, at the very minimum, you should invest in something like a legal shield. Okay. Legal shield will help keep you honest in terms of, as policies and procedures, like, because you all already have your policies and procedures from licensing, right? But constantly laws are updating, laws are changing. And Mariam and I can read the same law and come out with different interpretations, right? Because we're not attorneys, you want the attorney to interpret the law. You don't want to make a mistake interpreting a law and not pay somebody, and now you're exposing yourself to litigation, right? So I always just say, get a legal shield. I think it's like $29. They have plans starting at $29 a month, but it's worth it to make sure that you're protected. Okay. So Liz, you came back and said it's the client's family canceling. So you should have when you onboard your clients, there should be something in, whether you have like a policy and procedure for them, maybe you have your client manual, client handbook that spells out, what does that look like? Do they have to give you 2 hours notice? Do they have to give you 8 hours notice? Whatever it is for your agency. If they don't do that, right? Is there a penalty for that? I think that's what you're asking. So for me, the way that I would run my agency is, people were paying me a week in, well, I don't want to say a week in advance, but whenever I started, you had to give me a deposit, and that deposit usually carried your first week of services, right? And so anytime, let's say a person, because I didn't have this a lot as an issue, but whatever it is for you, you just got to make sure that you have communicated it, the client has agreed to it. And so let's say you say, I don't know, maybe the shift was 4 hours and this person canceled. So for you, that penalty is half the shift. If you're going to charge them for 2 hours, there needs to be a paper trail of why you took that money out of the deposit, so everyone is on the same page. Okay. Well, shoot, Fujika, you canceled, so now I'm charging you this. Right? You should, when you're onboarding them, they need to be made aware of your cancellation policy. Okay. So Liz, let me know if I explain that the way you want it. But in terms of the mileage, just make sure you understand what is the consideration for Washington. Somebody please explain Legal Shield. So Legal Shield is an attorney network. And let's say you have an issue. Let's say, for instance, Liz, is a part of Legal Shield, and she wants to know what the mileage, what is the law concerning paying mileage for the state of Washington. They would receive that inquiry, whether it's by phone or by email, and they would divide, or they would send that over to a person who's most likely a labor attorney for the state of Washington. Okay. And it's up for that attorney to give you that guidance on what it is you should or not do. That's a perfect example. Let's say maybe there's an overtime concern or a double time concern. What does your state say about overtime? When should it be applied? What if you want to terminate somebody? What does that termination process look like? So Legal Shield helps you with those issues, so you're not going it on your own. Because again, you just want to make sure that you're protecting yourself and your business against litigation. So I hope that helps.
It is a monthly subscription. I had it for the first half year of my business. It's a monthly subscription. I don't even think it's more than 30, 40 bucks a month.
Yeah, it's really not a lot for that peace of mind.
Yeah. Okay. Let's see if we got any more questions. Do you guys have any more questions, or you guys want to introduce yourself to Fujica? Please go ahead. Abby, I live in LA. My name is Irene. My question is about writing policy and procedures on your own. What
You
do
can do
you
it.
think? Yeah, you got this, girl. Well, what's your exact question? Because I know there's companies out there that will write them for you, and
Yes.
what,
Yes.
$25,000 to do that? Yeah.
So, and I was just playing with you. So yes, but I was kind of playing, but not really, right? Because you can write them on your own. So regardless of where you are, which Abby, you're telling us you're in LA, which is wonderful. Your state is required to let you know what their regulations are, even with regards to policies and procedures. And so for you, it's just making sure that whatever those regulations are, right? So typically the state wants to know how would you hire somebody? How would you onboard them? What does your emergency preparedness look like? How do you report abuse and things like that? So those are the standard things that should be in everyone's policies and procedures, right? But in addition to that, if you think of what does your employees need to know? So what does time management look like? Are they clocking in and out through a payroll system? Are you manually tracking their time? Are there any attendance policies? Are you in an at-will state, which means you could just let a person go for whatever? You don't necessarily have to have a reason. What does your uniform policy look like? So it's like your policies and procedures, you want to balance what the person needs to know working for you, and then also what does the state say you have, like mandates that you have to have. But to Mariam's point, if that's something that you don't want to do, there are people who are willing to do their policies and procedures for you. Now, my only warning to you is you don't want a canned policy and procedure. So that means this is a person who has just created a template and everyone gets the same template. You don't want to do that because you want to make sure that whatever your state mandates is taken care of in that policy and procedures. Okay, because I have run into a lot of people who come to me after paying someone $5,000 because the state is not accepting their policies and procedures. Okay.
I think
But
that
you can do it. I did mine. It took me a long time, but I did do it.
that's one of the, I think the second biggest question when people put their licensing in is the policy and procedures one, for sure.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hi, Fujica. My name is Taisha. I'm here in California.
Hi,
I've been
Taisha.
following you all my life. Nah.
Oh,
So
thank you for
I
your
want to
support.
say when I see Mariam had you coming on, I said, "Oh, Mariam is the bomb." Because Fujica, let me tell you in front of everybody, honey, I tried to be your have you mentor me like back in June 2022, and I don't think you was doing it, like you were busy, like you had a lot going on, and you was like reach back out, and I'm like, okay, let me just watch our YouTube channels, and let me tell you. I was one who paid for my policies to get done, and the company was like $2,000. Okay. Well, how much would you charge me to do the application? And it was like another three, so like 5,000. So, honey, I got to trying to do it myself, trying to figure it out. I was like, I can't do that. But let me tell you, you did save me that 3,000 with the application for California. I kept rewinding. I kept going back and forth. I was like, let me just follow her lead because you was very thorough. You like went online and did the whole thing. So I want to thank you for saving me
No.
at the jump start of my business, that 3,000 to help me do that application.
You are most welcome, and I'm glad it worked out for sure. That's the purpose of this channel, or of the channel that I had, is when I initially wanted to go into this business. I saw a lot of people on YouTube, but no one for California. I saw a lot of representation for Atlanta, South
Yes.
Carolina, but just nothing for California. So my whole thought process was like, okay, if I get my license, let me reach back and help others, because I think I reached out to someone and she wanted to charge me like $10,000. And I was like, well, wait, the application's only 5603. So why would I pay you 10? Like, so, and at the time I just didn't have it. So it was like, okay, let me work this out on my own. So, um,
It looks like Irene had a question. Do you help people write policies and procedures?
Yes, I do. I absolutely do.
Can I put your do you want me to put your YouTube channel in here? I can, or do you
Yeah, yeah.
what do you want me to put in here?
I just didn't want to, I was like, I don't know if Mariam wants me to put that or not.
Oh, I want to promote you. Are you kidding me? You wouldn't be here with absolutely. Here, let me put your YouTube in there. And then there's a couple more other questions if you want to grab that real quick from the chat, Fujica.
Okay. The only thing I see, it was just asking any company recommendation for policy procedure for Abby. And so,
I have a question.
yes,
Sorry to cut you off.
that's,
You'd mentioned earlier that it's really important to get community relationships down as a source of referrals. And so, yeah, with respect to that, what's the timeline to kind of expect for when have some sort of informal partnership or relationship you set with them and when they send referrals your way? Like, can it take forever? Like what is there to expect, I guess?
so that's going to really depend on that source. And so as you're building that relationship with them, like those are the types of questions you would be asking them when you have that connection. So if you're doing it over the phone, it's who is this person that I can speak to, whether it's the coordinator, maybe it's the director. Who is the person that I can get in front of to create this partnership? Okay. Once you get that person on the line, for me, I'm always trying to figure out, hey, how can I come in? I want to come in and talk to you, right? So, like, I love the senior care centers. I love those because I can bring in donuts. I can bring in, like, they typically have like a movie night. Can I sponsor your movie night? I'll bring popcorn for
Mm,
everybody. I'll bring whatever for everyone. And as you have their attention, maybe you sponsor an activity for that night. You're telling them about your agency, you're having cards, you have flyers, things of that nature. So it's hard because I will tell you, some community centers, you reach out to them by phone, they don't want to take your phone call, right? Or you may come to their
hmm
front door, they don't want to have you just come to the community and they don't know who you are. So you're going to get a lot of
hmm
people shutting the door in your face. You're going to get a lot of people who will hang up in your face. You just got to keep trying.
hmm
Because I know I've had people who have been like, oh my gosh, yes, we would love to partner with you. What does that look like? So you have to make sure you have everything vetted on your end. What does that look like? You know what I mean? What does that partnership? For me, it's if you have people in your community who are looking for caregivers, you mention me. You refer my agency, right? That's what I'm looking for, right? Um,
hmm
so it depends on that community and it depends on that partnership. But you really want to make sure whoever you're talking to, who is the person that makes the decisions, right? You've got to get past the gatekeepers.
Thank you.
Hmm. But I will tell you, a lot of times, human nature, everyone's the same. A good donut, a good cookie. that'll that'll get you past the right people sometimes.
One of the things that me and I had success with placement agents doing this, but I also have had some success doing like lunch and learns or like
Yeah.
you go in obviously to the facility, you find the discharge plan or the social worker specifically. And then you talk to them and, hey, can I offer like a coffee and donuts for the morning, where we can like talk to you, your staff about what we got going on. I've had the best luck, and I know you guys are sick and tired of me talking about these placement agents. I've had the best luck going with the placement agents to the facilities because they already have like the key to the back door. Um,
Yes.
so many discharge plans, even without a placement agent, a lot of planners don't mind you going to do like a lunch and learn or like breakfast and coffee. And literally all it is, you walk in, you don't sit down. It's not like a pitch or anything. You just bring the donor. You don't even, like I said, you don't even sit down. They get everybody together for the morning rounds or the meeting. They're all sitting in the corner on their desk, and then you just like, hey, my name is so and so. I own so and so home care. you know, the reason why I'm here today. You do your pitch and then you leave. It's less than 5 minutes. And that's what they call like lunch and learn, or like they do like breakfast too. I've done a lot of breakfast ones because they're just a little bit more affordable.
Mm-hmm.
So if you go into these facilities and the game plan is you want to get the discharge planner, social worker, director even maybe
Mm-hmm.
of the living facility,
Mm-hmm.
ask them, can I help you host the next event, or can I do a lunch and learn or whatever. So that way you're put in front of the whole thing. But you guys, it's not the one time that you do it. And then it's like, oh, okay, here you go. Here's like a list of clients. You keep up with, it's kind of like courting them. So you
Mm-hmm.
keep doing that at least a handful of times. And I mean, I've had community members that like, yeah, I went and dropped off donuts and I never heard from them again. I'm like, you're not going to. You're not
Yeah.
going. You gotta
Yeah.
offer something, because a lot of home care communities are doing that. What you could do differently is to offer to sponsor their next like casino night or
Yeah.
a Veterans Day luncheon. So like,
Mhm.
you know, one level above that could be that action right there.
Yeah. I think they almost all have a bingo night. They
Well,
almost all have movie night. So can your agency sponsor it? You know? Yeah. Yeah.
and then what I noticed also, not too many of my community members, but the ones locally, they'll sponsor it and then they're not even there, which is the weirdest thing to me. Because like there's been so many events that I go to and I'll win like a basket and it's like from this home care age, it's like my competitors and they weren't even at the event. So that's weird a little bit, but I saw this company and like you could, if you can't come to an event, I know Hannah, you're pretty much by yourself from my understanding. You're like doing all the running around. You can even create these little baskets, put your merchandise in it and just drop it off. And there you go. You have like 5 or 6 events. You might not be there, but your basket's there as a door prize.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Julie has a great question. Or it might be from Jennifer. I'm sorry. Would you recommend Legal Shield over the regular insurance? So this is a great question because they are two separate things. So if you have insurance through, let's say your professional and general liability insurance, they're just there to protect you in the event something happens, right? So you're not going to really go to them for expertise. Now, for your workers' compensation, you would, but only for workers' compensation questions. So, like something you can ask your carrier is, hey, do you have videos? Do you have little presentations how to prevent injuries, right? And they should be able to help you with that because that's helping you to keep your rates down. So they should be able to do that. But they're not going to give you general advice, right? Legal Shield is just there to give you legal advice. They're there to interpret the law for you. They're able to tell you what's different, what's changing in 2025. Um, they're there to tell you what's coming down the pike in terms of changes. They may have webinars for you. They may have, training for you. That's kind of like the difference. So for the insurances, yes, they're responsible for whatever it is they're doing for you, but it's just limited to that. Where Legal Shield, it's everything. It's everything to protect you in your business. That's the difference.
Yeah. Jennifer is one of our she's my insurance agent, so that's who she's
Oh.
She's amazing. She does
Mhm.
insurance for me and she saved me so much money, um and she's offered those different things. Like I know on Wellsky, one of the things that knocked off a lot of my premium was just adding the question, did you have a safe shift?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Lot with our premium. So she's talking about Jennifer. If you guys don't know in the community, which I think a lot of you guys do, it's normally the same people that come to the Q&As. Jennifer does insurance and then Legal Shield does the legal stuff. That's yeah, like
Mm-hmm.
two different things.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Great questions.
We have some more time. If you guys have any other questions, please don't be shy or text in the chat. There was a question on the tip of my tongue and it just left me. Um, What do you think about like the senior specific networking groups? You know, like in Sacramento, we have Older Adult Collaborative, and then we have the National Placement Registry, NPRA, for the agents. What are some common ones you've heard of in other states that like my community can like try to look up and stuff? There's a council on aging, the older adult
Any
collaborative.
council on aging, you're gonna make me Google some stuff. That's a good one. Any community, let me see. Let me see if I could Google something. And I might have to send it to you afterwards.
You can definitely post it. Yeah. I know every state, county, location has their own version of it. I just wasn't sure if you've ever heard of like any acronyms or something specific. I just really know for Northern California.
You already said the California Department of Aging, huh?
Oh, no, I didn't know there was one. California Department.
Oh, California Department of Aging. There's an Administration for Community Living. That's called the ACLA. Oh, you said National Council on Aging.
National.
NCOA. Yes, 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 yes. Yeah. So those are good ones. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna give you a list because I do see a couple of things on here. I'm trying to stay away from California specific because I know not everybody in this community is in California, but yeah, I'll
Besides
send this list to you.
books, what other documents do we need to put in place before starting the agency? Julie, what state were you in Washington, right?
No,
Yeah.
I am in Massachusetts and I'm currently stuck on, thankfully, I've written a couple of drafts for my policies and procedures. I've gotten the client one, I think, down. I'm working on the employee one, but as I work on these, I'm asking myself, what other documents do I need to put in place? Because like my client book doesn't even talk anything about money. So I'm just like, how do I even put this together? Yeah.
Mhm. So you definitely, speaking of money, you definitely want to have your service agreement. I'm saying service agreement. Some people say contract, right? So it's just something to outline what it is that you're agreeing to do for the client and then how much they're paying you for those services. And then it's also committing to the fact of whether you're doing a deposit for them or not. And then other things like emergency contacts, things of that nature should be in that contract. But you may want to have employment applications too for your caregivers. I do like to have them. Depending on where you get them, I know sometimes people just like to accept whatever they put on whatever job poster that you've had or whatnot. But for me, I want them to fill out the application. I want to see it, right? Um, but outside of your contract, I do feel like you should have like a marketing folder, if you will. So for me, that's just something where you could put in your client handbook. But if you have any referral programs going on at that time, like if you tell your client if they could refer another client to you, maybe that's a free week for them, a free 2 weeks of care. I'm not sure. But if you have any if you have any programs going on at that time, that's great. Just things on your actual agency itself. But other than that, any forms that you need, a lot of times what I use is I either create my own forms, to be honest with you, on my Google Docs. I create forms there, or you know what? I love Rocket Lawyer. That's how I do all of my contracts. That's how I do all of my forms, if you will. I'm trying to think of other forms that you would want to put on there other than your service agreement. Um, Definitely you want to make sure you have, and I guess you would have that from your care plan, but if that person has any allergies, what medications are they on? Real sticky situations are DNRs. You just want to make sure that you have that from the client, especially if a family is acting as a guardian for that client. And I just say that stuff gets real sticky real quick. Because yes, there's a standard, do not resuscitate, but sometimes people only want manual intervention. They don't want medical intervention. So it's just making sure that you have in writing whatever their wishes are, because sometimes whoever's the guardian would want to go against that, right? They want to preserve life, right? But that person is like, no, I'm good. So you just want to make sure you have something in writing so there's not an issue later. Make sure you have your logs in place. So if an incident happens, not only what is the process for that, but you want to make sure there's a log. So if for whatever reason you need to produce whatever happened, you have the report, you have the paperwork associated with that report, you know what happened as a result of all of that paperwork. Those are the types of things that people can come back and ask for. So you don't want to say, oh, I didn't know, or oh, well, I don't know where that paperwork is. That's not going to be acceptable, right? So just making sure you have all of your processes, like you have them backed up by making sure there's logs, ways that you can track these things.
Okay. Thank you, Fajika, for that answer. Hanad had a comment here. What are your strategies for closing different types of potential clients? Ones that aren't looking to start soon, deciding between facility, home care, deciding between you and a competitor.
So definitely for someone who isn't looking to start too soon, I always ask them, when are they looking to start, and if they mind me following up with them. So, because typically a person will say, hey, you know, I'm looking to maybe start this within the next 6 months. No problem. Do you mind if I follow up with you in 30 days? Okay. But also you want to know why. Hey, is there a reason why you're waiting 6 months to get care for mom? I'm just trying to understand, see if there's any way that I can help you. So really just delving in to make sure you understand the situation. But in terms of what are your strategies for closing different types? So for me, I make a goal with myself that if I have a person who I think really is looking for care, then my goal is to get into their home. So I'm asking questions. I'm trying to figure out how I can get there. That's like my goal, right? Because I want to make sure I can come out, do an assessment. I want to take it to the next level. I don't want to just talk to you. So it's like every time I get a person on the phone, it's like, how can I close that person? And so that means you're in control of that conversation. It's not the person that's called you, right? They're calling to make the inquiry. So you got to figure out how to close that inquiry. Okay. So that's one of the first things that I ask is, how soon are you looking to start care? And if they give me something like, oh, it's 6 months, it's 7 months, oh, can I ask why? You don't have to be mean. It doesn't have to be aggressive, but it's more about you understanding. Because so like Mariam said, I used to have that way too. Like I would have call scripting on my computer, and I would even have it branch out to if the person says yes, if the person says no. So you're anticipating what the person is going to say to you. So if they say, oh, I'm just looking for 6 months, there really isn't a reason. Okay. So based on that, hey, I just recommend you really want to get mom comfortable as quickly as possible. That's something that I could talk to you more about, but I really want to understand what's your apprehension today, that type of thing. So you're really just kind of going in to address what it is that they're saying. In terms of the competitors, really the way that I look at it is I'm not too much worried about the competitor. I just want to sell you on me, right? So I want you to go with me. Here are the reasons you should go with me. The other thing I was going to tell you all is if a person has had care before, I'd love to ask him, oh, okay, so mom has had care before. How did you guys pay for that? If you don't mind me asking, how did you all pay for that care? Because that's allowing you to know what you're getting ready to step into. Oh, this person paid and they just paid cash. They didn't have insurance, anything like that. Okay, great. So that lets you know that they're used to paying it. And you know what I mean? That there was no issue with paying cash before, right? So by you having those 3 or 4 questions just kind of in your belt, ready to kind of unload, you're driving the conversation instead of just allowing them to ask you questions that doesn't give you that doesn't allow you to really sell yourself or your agency.
Yeah, and
But anytime, oh, go ahead.
Sorry. No, I'll let you finish. I was gonna say something along the lines of what you said.
No, go ahead, love. Go ahead.
Same, me too.
So Hannah, what I've done for people that have called and they're interested, I like to get in front of them. So I try to keep I get the basics on the phone call. Don't tell your pricing. I don't like telling pricing over.
Me neither. Yeah.
What I try to do, even if they're all we're just looking around, and be like, well, listen, it's a free assessment. Let me come. I will give you a better answer in person. And if they're like just adamant about like not like having an assessment, then be like, well, it would be like I would be a disservice if I gave you an answer because I like to be and I want to give you like I like to be in front of them. So like my team and I actually have a script too of when people call and they're like, oh, we're just looking. I kid you not, we close more when we're physically at the house. So if you can get yourself like to do a free assessment at their house whenever you're free, and you really want to cater to whenever they're free, so it's not like, hey, I'm free next week, and I'll be like, hey, listen, I'm free right now. Let's go. Like the quicker obviously they called you for a pain point, and so the quicker that you get to them, and doing a really good assessment, and I hate to have to say this, but I feel like I need to. You show up, you have your name tag. You show up, if you're a smoker or anything, you freshen up. Like you have to look a certain way so that they feel confident. So the phone calls, I try to I have the team trained where we're trying to get to their house. And then if they're adamant, like, no, we're just looking around, I ask them, hey, is it okay if I get your email or your phone number just so I could follow up? I then plug them into my closed CRM, which is like my email drip or my text drip. And every so few weeks, I'm like, hey, it's Mariam. Happy Easter. I'm just checking on mom. How's she doing? And I make it like specific to them. So then like every couple of weeks, they hear from me. So if they're like just adamant, they're like, no, we're just looking around, like, okay, well, if you mind, let me get your number, or I can show up to do a free assessment. The quicker you can get in front of them, 9 times out of 10, you can close a lot faster. And same thing what Fajika said with the competitor. I always tell my team we do not talk about the other, like we don't talk smack, we don't talk good things, we just really sell ourselves up front. And this is what we do different. Not many agencies do this. I don't know who's coming in before or after me, but in our agency, this is what we do. We do, quality assurance on the dot every month. The owner herself calls and does a follow-up after your first shift. So like it's all about what makes you different. Like I don't know what the other competitors do, and whatever you do not talk smack, and that's just like sportsmanship, I guess. But what you do is just talk yourself up. Yeah.
Something that I want to share with you all is I recently had my mother-in-law come back into our home, and so I had to hire caregivers. And so I actually did a video about this because I was so disappointed where I would call in and, I think I want to say I called 3 or 4 agencies. Not one of them asked what was wrong with my mother-in-law. Not one. They asked what her routine was like, and they gave me a price based on that routine. But how can you give me a price when you don't even know what's wrong with her and how you're going to care for her? So when I think of that experience that I had, my mother-in-law is completely cash paying because she has to have this level of care. So we're not complaining about how much it is to pay, but you want to make sure that you feel comfortable with these people, that they can provide you the level of care that you need. So just kind of keep that in mind. Like, you don't want to come across as this is just dollar signs for you. It is caring for a person. And so if that person is calling you, it's because they want the service, whether they say it or not. So if they're calling you, my goal is to get into your home, because I know if I get into your home, 9 times out of 10, I will be closing that, right? The other thing I want to share about the assessment, because I think Mariam raised an excellent point. People will tell you, oh, I don't need an assessment. I really don't need much. I really just want companion care. And then your caregiver starts telling you, oh, well, Fajika asked for this tonight. Did Fajika tell you she wanted this? Uh-oh, Fajika, right? And so the way that you get around that, because then it feels a little weird, right? So the way you get around that is like, you know what? I really want to make sure I understand your needs. And not only do I understand them, but that I can meet them. And so even if a person, because if a person's refusing an assessment, like what can you do, right? They don't want to do the assessment. That doesn't mean you can't ask a list of questions, right? Tell me about your mobility. Let's talk about your nutrition. What medications are you on? Because believe it or not, that is an assessment, right? So even if a person's kind of refusing to go through the process of it, you still take control of it by making sure you have your questions, because based on that answer, then this is what what it is it looks like you need. And based on that, this is how much that would cost. Okay. So there's more than one way to skin a cat, but you're always in control.
Maintain the frame. There's a really good book called Pitch. I think it's called Pitch. It's about selling, and it's all about maintaining the frame. And I'll put it in the group. I could completely blinked on it. But I think Taisha, you have one more question before we head out.
Oh, it wasn't necessarily a question. I wanted to say I agree with Fujika with the pricing. Like I implemented that into my intake, initial intake immediately, because at the beginning I was so excited to get calls. I wasn't even asking them what was their payer source, and I was going out doing assessments for people that was on Medicaid. So I'm like, oh no, I can't keep doing this. I'm like, I don't accept this. So I really did implement that in my initial conversation. I had never did the pricing prior, but now I want to know. I'm not charging for the assessment, so I want to make sure before I even go that you're not receiving Medicaid, because I don't, that's not one of my forms of payment. So that is something, if no one is inquiring about or implementing at the beginning, they should make sure that that is a part of their intake for their initial phone call.
So Michael had one last question. When going for a client assessment, do I need to get them something like an example, cupcakes, etc.?
I am a type of person, I always like to bring something. So you can kind of decide. Here's the thing, food, you kind of want to stay away from because you're not sure about allergies. Maybe people don't like sweets. Maybe they're on a diet, stuff like that. But maybe if you have something that says your agency's name on it, just something like I bear gifts. That's how I am. And I think it makes you stick out, right, in a good way if you bring them something. So for me, I love what Mariam said, like making sure you look nice, you're dressed nice, you smell nice, you have your folder that you're gonna present and you're gonna, and then maybe in that folder there is something for them. But it depends on you, and it definitely depends on your budget.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you, Fujica, so much. We had such a good turnout, and I recorded it. I hope you didn't mind. I didn't even ask.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I appreciate you so much, and thank you, you guys. If you guys want to ask me something, I know a couple of you guys asked me for things, and if I forget, it's not because I was ignoring you. It's just that I'm doing 600 things. Just message me. So if you guys don't get what you guys wanted, okay? But thank you guys so much, Fujica. I am so grateful. Hopefully you come back. I hope.
Anytime.
I'll put Fujica's email and her Instagram in here, and I'll post it again to our website. And this is her Instagram, and then your email is simply
Fujica at Yahoo.
Fujica@yahoo.com. And again, I'll repost her information on our screen.
Wait, real quick before you hang up, Mariam, since you say you don't mind promoting her, I guess it's no problem for me to ask this question really quick. Your community, I see the fee of $50. Is that monthly or a one-time fee?
No, so that one is the entrepreneur path, and so it's a one-time payment. You don't pay that every month.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. No, I mean, I feel
All
like
right.
Fujica's community, I wouldn't even be here. So I'm all about promoting. So
Mariam, you're amazing. Thank you so much for this. This has been wonderful.
Of course. Thank you so much.
I wish you all the best in your businesses, y'all. I wish you the best of luck. You guys got it. Okay.
So much.
Okay. Have a beautiful night.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.